the loot boxes, and I'll talk about that soon. But I will say that the loot boxes in the game, they suck pretty bad, but I'll discuss this later on in the video. So, Need for Speed Payback tries to be a cinematic game. It is properly done. It has lots of cutscenes, and the cutscenes are done much better than the old games. Like in 2015 Need for Speed, the cutscenes were really cringeworthy. The characters were really like weird. They had this really weird culture surrounding them. But now the characters are not so bad. Yeah, the characters are still kind of cringy in this game. Like this one guy who's like gambling all the time. He's like, "Oh hoo hoo, I'm gonna bet on the right house. Ooh hoo hoo, look at me. I'm the house. The house always wins." Like this kind of person, and that's kind of silly. Like how these characters have such weird archetypes, almost like some anime character. But this game, otherwise, like most of the characters in this game are pretty likable, and they're not too like weird unless they're trying to insult those characters on purpose, like the antagonists. But in this game, Payback, you get three protagonists, and they pretty much just have fun working together, racing. And you have an antagonist in this game, and I won't spoil anything. She's revealed very early, and you just have to eventually work your way together with your three friends. You have to do different kinds of races and make alliances with different groups of racers, so that you can eventually make a name for yourself and defeat her. Kind of like the plots of the other Need for Speed games, and it's fun. You know, you can kind of think of it like each protagonist. I said there were three of them. Each one of them has something they kind of specialize in. So you'd be doing events with each one of those, and you'd have different cars for those different kinds of events. I do want to talk about the character designs a little bit. Yeah, it sounds weird, character designs. A lot of people think that, well, to be honest, I don't really like the design of some of the characters. Like, people say that the female antagonist in the game looks like an SJW, and she kind of does, because she has, like, a really weird mohawk, and, like, everyone looks so, like, weird. Maybe it's, like, some kind of, like fancy fashion that you'd find nowadays, but I think it's weird. But the thing is, it's that the antagonist, or even the protagonist, everyone, they don't really act like the SJW archetypes. It's like if you replaced their character designs with something more plain, they'd still be like asshole kind of characters, like the antagonist who has that mohawk, you know? It's like, it doesn't really make a difference what they look like. It is weird that they designed the characters like in such a weird way, but the personalities don't seem like SJW type personalities that you'd see like in the news and stuff. No, it still seems like any old protagonist or antagonist. You know, the protagonist is kind of cheesy too. It's like, oh, it's all about the heart of the racing. Like, oh, we can't rig the races. We have to have a fun time. It's whoever has the most effort and puts the most effort in and does the race the best wins. Like this kind of like a shonen jump anime. But yeah, like it's cheesy, and I think you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. One thing I do want to talk about related to the story is the ending of the game. I'm not spoiling anything, but the ending leaves a lot to be desired. It's kind of the situation where it's like, oh, you took down the antagonist, but oh look, there's this boss that was over the antagonist that you beat, and this big boss gets to escape, and you keep getting this big boss foreshadowed throughout the game, whose name is the Collector, but nothing ever happens to him. You never confront him. You don't really learn more about him, for example, and I feel like the game finished a little bit too quickly for my liking. I think that the story of the game would have been better if they had just a couple of more missions in the game at the end to just like wrap up the loose ends. It's like a game where they keep saying, oh, I want to have a sequel, so we just purposely leave in loose ends, but it doesn't make for a good plot, I don't think. I mean, I don't mind if, well, to be honest, with this kind of series, I think that the games should be more independent and should just have like self-contained plots. This game actually does have a lot of references, even in the cutscenes, to the old games. Like, I remember there's one scene in the game where there's Sergeant Cross, who's from Rockport, I think. I think that's the name of the city. It's a city from one of the old Need for Speed titles. And I forget what he says exactly, but he says, oh, this place is so shitty, I'm going back to Rockport. And it's, you know, if you're a big fan of the Need for Speed franchise and you know all of the games and stuff, you probably would catch a lot of these kinds of references, so you'd like that. But yeah, the ending, I don't know why they did that. They should have just made it self-contained and, you know, make you take down the Collector or something. That would have been really amazing. I would say that this game is longer than 2015 Need for Speed. This game is still short though. I'd say maybe 7 to 15 hours to beat it. It can be more or less. It depends on how much you need to grind in the game. The car selection that's available in the game is pretty decent. I like the open world environment as well. The open world in this game has a lot of diversity. You have both city, downtown environments, and you also have like canyon environments. It's a mixture of both. It's nothing new for the franchise though. You'd see the same kind of city in games as early as Need for Speed Carbon, and the graphics are decent, but it's not like top end like Forza or Gran Turismo. But I think that the environment, the open world, and the cars, they get the job done nicely. There is a working day and night cycle in the game as well. I didn't see. I believe that. I think I might have seen rain on a few occasions, but rain is mostly not present in the game. The types of races that you can participate in are very diverse. You have things like circuit races, sprint races, drifting, drag races. And drag races, they come back from the old games where you have to just speed up in a straight line using manual transmission. And there's a few cop chase escapes that you have to do. I noticed that in this game you can't actually initiate cop chases in the open world. It's not like Most Wanted or Carbon. But it's okay because you can explore the world more freely without having to worry about like following all the rules and staying below a certain speed. So I can kind of see why they did that. But if you wanted to trigger a police chase for fun randomly, know that you can't do that. You can only do that from certain missions. Now these missions are replayable, so you can always do that. But it's not like all of the cop chases in this game also have like sprint races. It's not like a free, open-ended cop chase. You don't have to escape the cops anymore like in Most Wanted. Like, in Most Wanted, when you had a heat level, you'd get chased by the cops, so you can go and hide anywhere you want to end the police chase. It's not like that in this game. This game will only have cop chases when you have a sprint race. So it's like you're forced to just go along a straight, predetermined path that the game makes. And suddenly the cops will just stop chasing you randomly at the end of this path. Like, you can't go wherever you want and have fun like the old games, which kind of sucks. So, there's more things I'd like to talk about as well. The challenge of the game, yeah, some of the cop chases can be a little bit challenging, but most of the time the cops are lazy and they just follow you. They'll ram you, but like you'll be doing sprint races, so randomly after you reach a certain point in the race, they'll just stop chasing you. And you can tell that in this game there's a lot of scripting. It's not like random, because a lot of this game has is mission. It's not random. You have to do these missions with the cop chases, and you can tell that, yeah, it's all scripted in advance. It always reacts the same way no matter what you do. It doesn't have the randomness that you would see in Most Wanted or in Need for Speed Carbon. Not at all. No, no, no. Overall, I'd say maybe there's about... it's tough to make an estimate. Maybe 40 to 60 main missions that you have to complete to beat the storyline of the game. Some missions are challenging, but most of the times it's not too bad. There's actually a few boss battles in between. So I guess with each gang of racers that you come up against, there's a few boss fights that you have, and sometimes you'll get unique dialogue, which is pretty interesting. But otherwise, most of the races gets boring because you're only doing a few types of races. It's like, oh, you have to do sets of 5 drift races, sets of 5 sprint races, sets of 5 cop chases, and you can kind of see, even though they have different types of races, it gets boring pretty quickly. I know with the girl who specializes in the cop chases, the girl female protagonist, she has really awful delivery missions. It makes you wonder why they put that in the game. The AI of the other racers is not that good. The AI will never crash into the oncoming traffic. That's understandable, I guess. Maybe they didn't want random stuff to happen. In the old games, they'd crash into the traffic, but then they end up getting all screwy and stuff, so I can kind of understand that. But the AI is not good because the game implements a lot of rubber banding. If you're not really familiar with racing games, rubber banding is it's just a technique that they program with the AI racers, and like a rubber band you'd expect to behave in real life. basically, if you're ahead of their AI racers, they'll start speeding up exponentially to get back towards you, and when you're behind them, they will start slowing down, sometimes exponentially, so that you can catch up. So I mean, I don't mind it too much. Sometimes I think this game does it a bit too much, because you'll actually see that, oh, if you're losing, you'll just start seeing all of the opponents start braking randomly, or their cars will slow down so much. And on the other hand, if you're doing really well, it's like somehow like they crashed into like walls and stuff, and all of a sudden, boom, they're speeding up from behind you from like 600 miles per hour. It's really crazy. You can kind of see that they recycled the bad artificial intelligence from 2015 Need for Speed. I don't know if you haven't played Need for Speed 2015. They had 3 expansion packs, and in one of these expansion packs, you would have speed challenges where you would race to a camera, and this camera would take a snapshot of your car's speed at the time, and you'd have to get the highest average from these number of speed camera points to win a certain type of race in that game. The problem was that if you had a really fast car and you went way ahead of your opponents, they would start speeding up from behind you from off screen, and they'd be doing like 600 miles per hour off screen in an attempt to rubber band back towards you. But in this type of camera race, though, they would end up getting snapshots of really crazy speeds. So even though you outlapped them, or you're dozens of kilometers ahead of them, somehow they would actually win the race because they would get the highest camera times. That was really, really shitty programming, and you never really see many people address that because it was free DLCs, free expansions, and not many people wanted to play that, it looks like. And you can see in this game, they just recycled it over. Now in this game, it doesn't matter because you don't have those kinds of camera missions again. You only have independent camera missions that you can go up against yourself. You don't have to do that against the opponents, but you can kind of see that they really do implement a lot of rubber banding in this game. I don't mind it because I'm a dynamic, adaptable kind of person. I like a little bit of a challenge sometimes, so I don't mind if they're like racing up towards me again. But a lot of people might not like this kind of challenge. Okay, so now I want to talk about the loot box problem. You earn regular currency in the game, but you can't buy or upgrade parts for your vehicle. Like, you can't get new brake pads or engines and stuff like that. Not like the old games, no. You have to earn these cards. You can kind of think of the cards like Battlefront 2 cards. These cards will improve your car's abilities, such as speed, top speed, acceleration, yep, nitrous oxide, jumping ability, and braking abilities. You can buy these cards in shops across the world map by spending a lot of the currency, or you can get them through daily rewards, and they have these kind of card points that you can use to roll slots to get these cards, so it's kind of randomized. Oh, and you can also convert your real world currency, you know, the green American dollars, or if you're in Canada like me, we have the Canadian dollars, but I like to call it the pesos of the north. But you can use these real world currencies to get these speed points, which are then used to buy these cards. It's shitty, and a lot of it is random. It's random. Sometimes you'll get good cards, sometimes you get bad cards, and you can potentially get really unlucky and end up not getting good cards at all. And then you'll end up with a shitty, clunky vehicle that you can barely use for races. And this means that if you don't want to spend real-world money, you'll have to sometimes grind old races, old missions that you have already completed to keep getting more currency. And I noticed a lot of other people, I've watched some other people stream the game, they struggle because they keep getting bad cards, and they have to keep grinding more currency so that they can get better cards for the car. Sometimes you can only upgrade a car so much with the cards. I know this is going to sound kind of confusing because I'm saying cars and cards in the same sentence, so bear with me. But the thing is, sometimes cards can only upgrade the car so much, and then you'll have to buy a new car. But buying a new car in the game is a big lump sum of money, so you'll have to do more grinding. It can be a big grinds fest. This game does allow you to find the car parts across the world map. And I think maybe 5 or 6 cars you can assemble this way for free throughout the entire game, but you can only find these parts after completing a section of the main missions, like the sections of main missions for each gang. Only then will you be able to find these parts in the open world. And the thing is, I did a few of these. I did this for the first two, the two cars I was able to find. Two gangs gave me these, they call them the derelict cars in this game. So I did that, and I noticed that these cars, they were pretty shitty, and they could barely be upgraded, and I just never used them again. Then I stopped searching the open world because it was such a waste, because the cars were just so shitty. The free cars that they were giving me were just so not really good at all. I mean, you can tune any car to be okay for something like a drift race, for example. But if you're in a sprint race, or especially a drag race, you really need to have fast acceleration. Things like your brake speed, like the brake stats for your car, and your jumping stats for your car, they don't really matter that much. It's all about the speed. Otherwise, you're just going to get left behind, or you won't be able to, because the way the races are done in this game, for some of the races, it's like an old school arcade game where you have to pass checkpoints within a certain time, so you can easily lose the game from that. So the loot box situation in this game is the reason why people are so mad. It is very similar to Shadow of Mordor's Act 4, but can you imagine that for the whole game? Well, this is how it is for the whole game. This pissed off many big reviewers. There's a big stink in the news. Everyone's just like downvoting, giving the game really, really bad scores, and I kind of agree with them. Like, I don't personally think that it was so bad in this game, but the thing is, racing is something I'm really good at. I've played a lot of racing games since I was young, and I can kind of understand the other point of view, because not everyone wants to grind so much. Like, I find the racing relaxing. I can do like hundreds of laps easily, just pop in a playlist and do it. I find it really, really common and relaxing, but not everyone likes that. Some people want to just progress the story mode of the game, and I'll tell you straight that if you try to go right through the story, you will eventually reach cars with stats that will crush you. And yeah, grinding is inevitable. If you like do that, like, you will start to get the drag races near the end of the game are really brutal. I can see a lot of people getting stuck at that section, for example. Like, things like, again, I'll say it again, the drift races, all you have to do is just like do the turns and get drift points. That's okay. But the thing is, the actual races, yeah, you'll get outclassed easily if you just try to go only through the story mode, and that kind of sucks if you just wanted to do that. Not everyone has so much time as well. Like, there aren't any side missions like the old games either. There's not really optional challenges. I wish there was, like I know in some of the old games they used to have these optional challenges you could do and get some rewards from that. But in this game, all you have is small speed challenges that you can do. And I know that you can do collectibles in the world, like smash the boards around the world. But the thing is, they don't really get you that much money. Yeah, they get you a little bit of money, but you can't do much with it. You're better off just grinding, like, throughout the world map. And yeah, it sucks, because in the old games, sometimes you wouldn't necessarily have to do all of the missions to beat the game, but in this game, yeah, all the missions are tough, and you have to beat all of them to beat the game. And there's nothing else you can really do to earn money other than get the small amount from the speed challenges, or from just grinding the old missions over and over again. See, people got mad because they messed up a perfectly good system, and you know it is willful blindness on their part. They're just saying, oh yeah, we want to help people, we want to try something new, but you can tell that in the end they want kids or whoever it is to spend money on the loot boxes. I know it's not really loot boxes in this game, but it is pretty much what it is, and they use the loot boxes to get these cards that you can use to upgrade your car. People don't like that. People used to like tailoring the car how you want it to. Like, now it's like slots all the time. When you get these speed cards, it's always like playing slots. Yeah, you get them after certain races and stuff, but you can get unlucky sometimes. You can't really customize your vehicle the performance of your vehicle like you used to. Maybe you wanted to just get a good engine first. You can't really do that. Now it's all randomized, and maybe you'll get something you just don't like. Maybe, like in the old games, maybe you wanted to do a suspension. Maybe you wanted to specialize in the brakes. Sometimes you just wanted to have a good amount of nitrous because you'd crash a lot, so you want a lot of nitrous to recover quickly. You can't really customize the performance of your vehicle like the old games, and people hate it. It introduces so much randomness, and I keep saying this again, but people can get really unlucky, and when you get unlucky, you're screwed. Then you end up with I know a lot of people will just get stuck with the old Honda you get in the beginning of the game, and they just can't progress, and they don't know what to do. And it sucks that you have to grind to get currency to get more of these cards, and it's a really stupid system. Yeah, they really shot themselves in the foot with this one. And yeah, it's just making a lot of people hating the game. Otherwise, everything else about the game is okay. The graphics are alright, I like the open world. It's only upgrading that makes people so mad. That's stupid what they did. I didn't talk about the online multiplayer. The online multiplayer is okay. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's a dead game, but it's not the most popular. You only have to wait a few minutes to get a good race, but once you get a good race going, you're set. They only allowed for 2 types of races in the online multiplayer, and it's just on-road and off-road, and they can be done either in circuit mode or through sprints. The thing is, drifting used to be a type of race in online multiplayer in Need for Speed 2015, so I was really disappointed on why they didn't have that. That was like a missed opportunity. Why not even have something like a drag race, for example? Maybe you could have had customized playlists for the multiplayer so that you could choose what kind of event you wanted to. I noticed that there's certain priorities that people really like in online multiplayer. They use a voting system. So you each have votes, and you can vote on what kind of type of race you want. And in general, I noticed the most popular types are the on-road races. Like, people don't really like the off-road racing that much. And whether it's between sprint and circuit, usually sprint wins, unless the only available option is to vote for a on-road circuit race. It's usually on-road sprint that wins. Then the second choice would be on-road circuit, and then it would be off-road sprint and then off-road circuit. Like, it's a priority. You always see the same patterns, and you could have just improved it by just making playlists for these certain types of races, and also including other types of races that used to be online and they weren't online now. Like, what are they doing? So many missed opportunities. You can meet really interesting people online, though, like with really good car builds. Like, you always have the community, and this game does have a community if you're willing to look out for it. And yeah, you can make friends and do like lobbies, but otherwise it's very plain. There's no ghost mode in the game, so like at the beginning of the race, everyone will just crash into each other. The thing is, not everyone purposely tries to crash into each other. Sometimes there's lag in the game, so sometimes you won't be able to steer out of the way in time. Some people do purposely try to crash, so you'll have to try to avoid them. But otherwise, once all of the cars have been going, there won't be much crashing afterwards. It's only at the beginning of the race when everything builds up, so I usually just have a racing car with a lot of nitrous, and I just use up the nitrous at the beginning, and once I'm away from everyone else, then I can just do my own thing, and not have to worry too much about other people crashing into me. The customization, not in terms of performance, but in terms of visual customization, is good. And they keep it like the old games. You can download the popular paints for your cars, and there's a voting system so you can see the top rated designs for each kind of vehicle. You can download them very easily, like painlessly. And that's really the only good aspect of the visual customization. As I said, they effed up the performance customization with speed cards, but when you want to paint and make your own logos and stuff, oh, that's perfect. That's easy, it's intuitive. But again, this is just reinventing the circle. Games like Forza did these kinds of painting abilities and such, and they did the community voted design idea many years ago. So it's an expectation at this point that this game should have such kinds of visual customization. But in the end, I like this game a lot. I like it a lot, don't get me wrong. But the whole speed card customization ability, that was a really, really stupid decision. I don't know why they would botch the game up so much. The game itself, everything else is decent, and it is a step in a much better direction than 2015's Need for Speed. There's no more of the always online BS. They listened. This game, I don't know why. This game just lost so much popularity because of the loot box craze, I really like arcade style racing games. You can dodge traffic, and I like being able to do these kinds of power slides and easy drifting. It's not like a simulator racing game that you see nowadays. So I think that a game like this, an arcade racing game, is very easy for new players, newcomers to the series, or newcomers to even just racing in general to pick up. Dodging traffic is so much fun. Like going on the opposite side of the road, your blood gets pumping, and the more multiplayer matches can get really intense. It's so much fun. It's something that you can't really get out of Forza or the simulator kind of games. But it's sad because there's not many arcade style racers anymore. So this was a really, really cool breath of fresh air to me. I hate it because series that I used to love that was like this, like Midnight Club, a lot of this kinds of stuff is dead now. And now racing has become very saturated with simulation kinds of racing games. You have the games like Gran Turismo, Forza, Assetto Corsa, Dirt, but you don't really have this kind of arcade racing game. It's like Need for Speed is the only game that dominates the arcade racing market, and it's sad because I would have thought, like, if you told me this 10 years ago, I would have thought it would have been the other way around. Because the arcade racer seems so flashy, you think people would want to run away from the cops. I know that maybe if you're not in North America, you're not familiar, but I don't know if they still have it. In the old days, there was this company called Scholastic, and you could buy books at a discounted rate in association with your school board. But the thing is, sometimes they would let you buy discounted games. So everyone would end up buying a discounted version of... Back then, this was back in the very early 2000s or late 90s, they would buy the old Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, like the original Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. And from the Scholastic catalog, it was really ridiculous. But the thing is, even as kids, we liked arcade racers so much because, more so than Gran Turismo, because, you know, the cover of the games would be so cool looking. You'd be running away from the cops. It's so badass. It's so flashy. It's so cool. And the gameplay was actually easy to pick up. It's not like a simulator the simulators can be daunting, you know? And the simulators have such a hardcore audience. And the arcade racers, it's a more relaxed community. Like, some people will even advocate, oh, crash into each other, like it's okay. I don't mind. I wouldn't blame you if you mashed into my car in Need for Speed. I wouldn't blame you. Like, I'd get pissed if it was Gran Turismo or Forza, but I wouldn't get mad at you for doing that here. And the thing is, so, like, if you told me now that simulators would become more popular, I'd be like, what the hell? But that's the way this genre ended up. It's weird, but it is what happens. And it sucks because it looks like this game didn't do the best. I wish that it would have done better. Because, and I feel like maybe this is a case where Need for Speed 2015 was so bad, it ended up making the sales for this game bad as well. But I also think it's because of the speed cards. They really shouldn't have done that. It's because 2017 is the year of the loot box, as some people like to call it. And because this game has loot box-like elements to it, a lot of people got pissed. Rightfully so, though, because they really took out what made the game special. Like, the performance customization that you used to be able to do was so amazing. And that's why you get so many people still playing the old games like Most Wanted and Underground and all of that. You'll still see people making videos on those games on YouTube and all of that. It's just so sad what happened. So, in the end, if you asked me for like one sentence, I would just say everything is actually pretty decent with the game, and it is a step in the right direction. They were trying to make something better. They just really shouldn't have done the speed cards bullshit. They really messed up. I don't know why they did that. It's so stupid. But I enjoy the game. Everything else about the game, perfectly fine. But the speed cards and stuff, oh, it's so stupid. What did they do? If you like the content within this video, please consider giving it a like. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel so that you can be the first to receive all of my latest videos.